back to basics, because it all starts with an understanding of what is the conditions that create long service life. So our engineer, he designs a machine, he's in his office and on his computer these days, and back in my time I was on a drawing board, and I drew many of these things up myself in the years gone by. And the engineer, when he designs his machine, he says, okay, let me start somewhere. And he always starts with a straight line. And the assumption is that line is straight. It's perfectly straight, is what he thinks in his mind. Then he'll space off the distances he requires for the various sizes of components. Then he'll give the components a tolerance to work in. And in the engineer's mind is this understanding, hey, if everything's run perfectly as I've drawn here, then there is space to assemble things properly, there is space to put lubricant and keep the parts separated as they are in operation. And he thinks there's nothing that should fail this thing. Everything's in my head as it should be. And that's what the engineer looks at. He looks at the perfect world. Then he goes off and designs his machines along those lines there. Now these tolerances are very, very small. Now there's an example there. There's a human hair, and a comparison of that gap there to the human hair. We're talking about microns. There's not much space to play around with. So we have to respect the fact that there isn't a lot of movement available for our machine parts. So we have to maintain that life of that part within the constraints the engineer chose when he designed this. So when our parts get this done to them, then they're not going to last very long.